Thank you, Chairman Bozeman, and thank you, Ranking Member Schatz, for holding this hearing and important hearing, I think, to address the critical funding for the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. And Mr. Secretary, we appreciate you being here to answer questions, and thank you also for meeting with me in my office earlier this year to discuss some of the issues that I plan to raise today. Last year, Congress appropriated $779 million for medical research at the Department of Veterans Affairs. In your request to Congress, you recommend cutting that amount by $17 million. How do you justify that cut?
It's actually, so it's sort of it's not accounting trickery, but it's actually not a cut because in 2019, we had a one-time $27 million increase that was for some work we were doing with the Department of Energy. So if you set aside that one time, we actually have about a $10 million increase this year, and it's just because of that one-time anomalous amount.
Well, that last year's appropriation of $27 million supports that partnership you
Does,
talked about
right, for the
between
million veterans, yep.
We call the big data science.
And that's going to go on for some time, and that is not included in our request. That was a one-time funding issue.
And much of the work there is being done by researchers at national laboratories, including New Mexico's Sandia and Los Alamos. I would encourage you to continue and increase your work with the national labs. Do you support making the big data science program an annual appropriation? Do you support expanding the program to benefit more veterans? For instance, expand data analysis of veterans who were exposed to burn pits.
Let me talk about burn pits first. I was on public radio yesterday in the Delaware Valley, and I said that one commitment that I've made to the Congress is that I will not see what happened to veterans from Vietnam and Agent Orange happen again. I've actually talked with General Petraeus about this. Saigon fell 44 years ago next week, and it wasn't until the 1990s when we recognized the Agent Orange issue. So I'm committed to do everything we can so we don't see a repeat of what happened with Agent Orange.
Thank you. We really appreciate that. Please go ahead.
Senator,
Stone.
certainly the use of the hypercomputing ability of the Department of Energy is something we're going to need on an ongoing basis, especially when you look at the Million Veteran Program and the genomic data analysis that's necessary. I would expect that you will see requests in the future for us to expand that relationship. We are also in multiple other relationships doing genomic data analysis, especially for prostate cancer patients, and we're working on a precision oncology program with the National Institutes of Health and National Cancer Institute.
Yeah, that's great. To follow up a little bit, Mr. Secretary, on burn pits, over the past 2 years, Congress has appropriated $10 million to improve and expand the Airborne Hazards and Open Burn Pit Registry, which was established through legislation that I introduced in 2011. This year, you did not request additional funds for this account. Why not? And could you explain how you intend to follow up on the commitment you made to make sure we don't follow that pattern with Agent Orange? I mean, that's very much been my experience. You meet Vietnam veterans and they battle for years and years and years before it was even recognized. So,
just for full disclosure, I'm a burn pit exposed veteran from my time in Afghanistan, so I have a special interest in this area. We've done a good job, I think, of getting people onto the registry. We've done less of a good job getting people in for examination. Part of that is defining the criteria of examination in small airway disease and how to institute that. I think we could do a better job of really encouraging those veterans in the registry to get in for examinations. I also worked very early in my training when I was in the VA as a trainee, as a resident. I worked Agent Orange clinics at a time that we didn't have good data. I feel like a deja vu all these years later. So we're working our way through this. You are exactly correct. We must continue to work to define what the exact effects on exposure to these agents are.
Yeah, and then just, you don't need to answer this, but maybe in the record afterwards, the exposure to burn pits, many vets are arguing for that to be a presumptive service connected. I'm sure your answer would be today you aren't quite there, but I hope that you will aggressively do the work to make sure that you can make that determination. Thank you.
Yes, Senator.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.